Eric Wright, better known to the world as Eazy-E, was only 31 years old when he died in a Los Angeles hospital. The official story was that he had AIDS, but he himself said he didn't know how he had gotten it. To most people, he was the father of gangsta rap, the founder of Ruthless Records, and the voice of a generation. But there are those who believe his death might not have been exactly what the public was told. Eazy-E announced to the world that he had AIDS, and just 10 days later, he was gone. Among the people left behind was a woman who had been by his side for years, Tracy Jernigan. Now, at 55 years old, she has shared her side of the story for the first time. She says this isn't just speculation or rumor. It's her direct experience, the truth she saw with her own eyes. Tracy was never in the spotlight. She wasn't in music videos, didn't pose for magazines, and wasn't part of the celebrity scene. But those who knew Eazy in his early days knew Tracy too. She was a steady part of his life before his fame exploded. They first met in January 1989, right before his career skyrocketed. Back then, Eric wasn't yet the godfather of gangsta rap. He was ambitious, street-smart, and carried a mix of toughness and vulnerability. Tracy didn't fall for the image. She saw the real person behind it, the one who could be fragile despite his hard exterior. For 6 years, they built a life together, raising their daughter in an unpredictable world where trust was rare and enemies were plenty. Tracy says her main goal during those years was to protect him. "I just wanted him to know I had his back," she recalls. That loyalty went far beyond romance. It was about survival in a world full of danger and pressure. To millions of fans, Eazy-E was a rap icon who could deliver sharp lyrics and run a record label like a kingpin. But to Tracy, he was simply Eric. In private, he wasn't the tough, untouchable man people saw on stage. He had a softer side, a quiet loyalty, and moments of tenderness he rarely showed in public. They spent many nights in their Woodland Hills home, just sitting on the couch while the music industry buzzed outside their door. Tracy watched him transform from a street hustler into the founder of Ruthless Records, seeing both the excitement and the toll it took on him. Success came with a price. Eric trusted fewer and fewer people as time went on. Despite being surrounded by crowds, he often felt alone. Tracy was one of the rare people he truly let into his inner world. Their daughter, Ebe, was born into the middle of his whirlwind life, late-night studio sessions, endless tours, and very public feuds. Even with all of that, Tracy says Eric made an effort to be a father. He might not have been able to be there in a traditional way, but he never forgot about her. There were last-minute birthday parties, late-night phone calls from the road, and moments where he made sure she knew she was important to him. He also made it clear to everyone that she was his daughter. He supported her financially, emotionally, and legally, and he took pride in that role despite having children with other women. He didn't just claim her, he proved it through his actions. Tracy's memories paint a very different picture of Eazy-E from the one the public knew. Behind the fame and the controversy was a man juggling his career, his family, and a growing list of pressures. His death, so sudden and surrounded by unanswered questions, still casts a long shadow over her life, and over the history of hip-hop itself. Eric Wright, better known as Eazy-E, was known by millions as the godfather of gangsta rap, the founder of Ruthless Records, and a powerful voice in music. But behind the fame was a man who deeply cared for his family, especially his daughter with his longtime partner, Tracy Jernigan. Unlike many celebrities who drift away from their children, Eric made sure his daughter felt loved and supported. He provided for her financially, emotionally, and legally, never hiding the fact that she was his child. Tracy often said that no matter how busy or surrounded by people he was, Eric always made an effort to be present in his own way, through surprise birthday parties, late-night phone calls, and quiet moments at home. But as his music empire grew, Tracy began to notice unsettling changes. Certain people started appearing in Eric's circle, people who seemed out of place but stayed close, watching and waiting. While Eric focused on running Ruthless Records and maintaining his dominance in the West Coast rap scene, it felt like something darker was quietly forming around him. Life for him became a dangerous game that went far beyond music, and even fatherhood seemed tied to survival. In February 1995, everything changed. It started with a harsh cough that wouldn't go away. Suddenly, Eric checked himself into Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. Within days, doctors said he had AIDS-related pneumonia. The news shocked everyone. Just weeks before, he seemed healthy. No weight loss, no slow decline, none of the usual signs. Tracy couldn't understand how he could go from fine to fighting for his life overnight. She was even more puzzled when she remembered that Eric didn't use drugs, and none of his partners or children, including herself, tested positive. To her, the pieces didn't fit, and when she asked questions, the answers she got felt scripted, as if someone was hiding the real truth. As his condition worsened, Tracy found herself shut out. Hospital security, lawyers, and certain family members kept her away, speaking in whispers behind closed doors. Then came an even bigger shock. Eric had reportedly married Tomika Woods in a quiet bedside ceremony while he was too weak to speak. Tracy only learned about it afterward. Almost overnight, Tomika became the legal controller of his estate. Tracy believed Eric was no longer in control of his own life during those final days, and that something else was going on behind those hospital walls. After his death, chaos took over. Money began disappearing, legal battles erupted over ruthless records, and people fought over control of his legacy. For Tracy, grief turned into a painful mix of suspicion and unanswered questions. She still feels a responsibility to uncover what really happened to Eric, not just for herself, but to protect the truth about the man she loved and the father he was. After Eric's death, the chaos surrounding Ruthless Records exploded. The label he had built into one of the biggest forces in gangster rap suddenly became a battlefield. More than $600,000 vanished from company accounts without explanation. Files that had been securely stored and carefully managed disappeared as if someone had erased them on purpose. People who had once been Eric's trusted partners turned on one another, throwing accusations and pointing fingers. The professional family he had built began to collapse. At the center of all the conflict was Eric's will. In the document, signed when he was extremely sick and near the end of his life, everything, his money, his music rights, and his entire legacy, was left to Tomika Woods, the woman he had reportedly married on his deathbed. But many people doubted the circumstances. Was Eric truly aware of what he was signing? Or had he been pressured by those around him when he was too weak to resist? Even some of his close friends, including members of NWA, questioned what had really happened. One member recalled visiting Eric just days before he died, noticing moments of recognition mixed with confusion. He said Eric seemed to understand what was going on, but something still felt wrong. The fight over Eric's estate became about more than money. It became a fight over his story, over who would control how his life and death were remembered. Then came the moment that shook Tracy to her core. She was watching late-night television when Suge Knight made a disturbing comment about injecting people with AIDS. For most people, it may have been just a tasteless and shocking joke, but for Tracy, it felt like confirmation of her darkest fears. She couldn't help but wonder if Eric's death had been the result of a deliberate act. She admitted that she and others had quietly suspected certain people all along, based on the strange behavior, whispered rumors, and the way some stood to gain from his downfall. Time didn't weaken Tracy's determination, it only made it stronger. Alongside her daughter, Eazy-E, she began a long investigation to uncover the truth. This mission led to their documentary series, The Mysterious Death of Eazy-E. The project was both a tribute to Eric and an intense search for answers. They interviewed doctors, examined his medical records, and confronted inconsistencies in official documents. The death certificate had missing signatures, mismatched dates, and a timeline that didn't line up with other evidence. It felt as though someone had been trying to control the story and erase parts of the truth. The investigation brought painful memories back to the surface. Tracy faced public doubt, criticism, and even threats. Some people dismissed her work as a conspiracy theory, while others saw it as the courage to finally speak about things that had been hidden for years. To Tracy, it was never about convincing the public. It was about clarity. She wanted answers for herself, for Eazy-E, and for anyone willing to see past the official version of events. Her research uncovered disturbing theories. a possible tampered injection disguised as medical care, corporate power struggles, and a calculated plan to silence Eric forever. The more she learned, the more it seemed that his death might not have been from illness alone, but from a deliberate decision made by someone with both motive and opportunity. When the documentary aired, it sent shockwaves across the country. It exposed the darker side of the music industry, where trust is rare, betrayal is deadly, and control is everything. Tracy faced threats, late-night anonymous calls, and was shunned by powerful figures tied to Eric's world. But every time fear tried to push her into silence, she thought of her daughter, the living reminder of Eric's love, and found the strength to keep going. For her, the fight was no longer just about what happened to Eric. It was about protecting his legacy and tearing away the layers of lies that had been built around his name for decades. Tracy has often said, in her few interviews, that this fight is about Eric's legacy. She carries the weight of years filled with pain, unanswered questions, and what she believes are deliberate lies hiding the truth. As she and her daughter Eazy-E dug deeper into the mystery, they uncovered disturbing gaps in the official story. The autopsy report, something that should have provided clear answers, was missing entirely. Hospitals that should have kept Eric's medical records either claimed they didn't exist or said they had been lost. Staff who were present during his final days vanished from public view or refused to speak. Important audio recordings from the hospital were gone, erased without explanation. Witnesses who once came forward later retracted their statements, their credibility suddenly questioned. The marriage to Tomika Woods, reportedly on Eric's deathbed, added more suspicion. If he had been too weak to speak, how could such a life-changing event have taken place? And why did no one investigate? Every new discovery made the situation look darker, revealing a network of secrecy and betrayal that seemed designed to protect powerful interests. Yet, despite all this, no official investigation was ever launched. There were no arrests, no accountability, only silence. It was a heavy silence, the kind that made it feel like the truth was too dangerous for anyone to say out loud. Now 55 years old, after decades of struggle, Tracy speaks with a blunt honesty that leaves no room for doubt. The years have not softened her resolve or eased her pain. If anything, they've made her mission clearer. She no longer hides behind careful words. She tells her truth directly. He was my first love, my friend, my daughter's father, and I watched him be taken from us, she says, her voice steady but filled with grief. She doesn't claim to know every detail, but she's certain of one thing. Something was done to Eric. Something deliberate. Something cruel. And she refuses to stay silent any longer. We suspected him all along, and now the world needs to pay attention, she declares. This is more than the story of one man's death. It's about legacy, power, betrayal, and the courage to fight for the truth. It's about a woman who refused to disappear into the background and would not let herself be silenced. Tracy has become the voice at the center of this story, and perhaps the only one that truly matters. Do you believe Eazy-E's death was just a medical tragedy, or does it seem like his final days were too carefully planned to ignore? Share your thoughts in the comments.